Hello, welcome everybody. This is the Cinematic Adventures one. I know that the thing on Nacho Con was about what new things are coming up. Um, so hopefully we can hear from that about anything that you guys can tell us about. I know there's some NDA stuff that's going on. Um, but also, I think, there was the understanding that it might be talking about how to write in somebody else's IP. So we'll do a little bit of both.
I think that we'll do far more of the latter than the former,
That's
because
completely fine.
Yeah, I don't think there's anything we can specifically talk about that is new.
yeah, I mean, because the big one that obviously Goob was working super crazy hard on with Nick was the Return of the Living Dead. But that is now a reality. It's actually out there in the universe. So any of
Yeah.
the other cinematic-y type stuff licenses that we're working on right now, I mean, hell, we can go ahead and use that as a jumping point, as a topic, is when dealing with other people's IP and licenses and legal and lawyers and all of these things, nothing is for sure until it is in your hand, until it is actually created. Literally right up to the point where you hit print, things can go south. And so legally, it is much easier. I can't. I run into this a little bit with some other properties that I work with. That people will be like, "Well, tell us what's coming next. We know you're working with this. Tell us what's the next product." And sometimes it is better to err on the side of caution and say, "You know what? We have stuff in the queue. We've got stuff in the pipe. We're working on things. We'll let you know when it's a reality," because you never know when that's going to change, especially in the current state of the world around us. Things change day to day, seemingly. And the last thing you would ever want to do as a professional is say, "Awesome, count on this. Your money's in the bank. Love this. Prepare for this." And then we have to tell you, "Oh, hey, so I know that you were absolutely jazzed about this thing, but it's not happening." So it is better for us to say cool stuff is coming and then tell you when it's real, rather than trying to hype stuff that might not happen.
So kind of like what happened with Rebel Moon. We were hyped up about the Rebel Moon stuff coming out, and
Yeah.
then there was the whole
Yeah.
snafu
Yeah.
thing. So I mean that
Yeah.
that makes sense. And yeah, I was able to get my PDF of Return of the Living Dead. It's
Yeah. Speaking of what became of our space stuff, we've been putting together intergalactic heroes, which is not an IP thing anymore.
Yeah.
But what's cool about that is that means now it can have cinematic adventures in addition to everyday heroes.
One of the things that Dave, when we would often get together in meetings, and Dave would tell us, "Here's a handful, sometimes more than a handful, of possible licenses that we're looking at talking to." And some of those lists are very long and often contain things that Goob and I and Paul and everybody look at and go, "Yeah, there's definitely not a game there." Like, no, very no, nobody's getting. God, I'm trying to remember any of the good ones that popped up that were like, "Yeah, that's just not going to happen." Yeah, I can't even think of one right now that we
What's
all
the
laugh.
one that was it was like Air Bud.
Goat,
Goat,
which
where a goat plays.
I still think, having seen the trailer, it's doable. That's a challenge to do a game surrounding anthropomorphic cartoon animals in an anthropomorphic cartoon animal world. I think it's,
I
I think it's
mean,
doable.
it's probably
And
doable.
and it lets me Goob and I can come up with all kinds of like fun rules for playing sports in role playing games. Uh,
Hmm.
I'm telling you, it's doable. But so those meetings would happen, and we'd look down these lists, and we'd see, this one yes, this one no, or whatever. And where was I going on that? Goat threw me off. I got into my head about what's cool about Goat. Uh, but all the time Dave would say we have to keep it to the modern age. For the longest time, it was always, don't look at video games, don't look at sci-fi, don't look at fantasy. Like it was because it was everyday heroes was the main the core thing. So it was back as far as gunpowder and forward as far as near future, and that was where all of our limitations were. But like Goob was just saying, now that we've got IGH and then eventually into EDA and more access becomes things more cinematic adventure style stuff, cinematic source books that we'll be able to create in the future because we now have more root games to go back to rather than just always only modern.
Right.
Yeah,
So,
and previously with with the original set of the cinematic adventures, we had some of it's sci-fi-ish, some of it's fantasy-ish. Um, but the most sci-fi you get is giant robots on Earth or like Mars. So
Yeah.
it's like, yeah, there's spaceships, but really it's just sort of an airplane that goes in space. Um, but now we can expand much further out into weird sci-fi stuff and
Yeah.
alien species and everything. And once we've got Arcana, we can do a lot more like urban fantasy type things
yeah,
with spells and dragons and weird, so as opposed to something like The Crow or Highlander where it's yeah, it's magic, but it's not there aren't wizards.
Yeah, rather than a single element of fantasy, oh, in Highlander, everybody's immortal. Okay, cool. And then there's this like, quickening thing. But that was
Yeah.
it. In Total Recall, there's a little bit of super science and the whole brain scrambling and mutants, and that's it. Universal Soldier, cybernetics, and that's it. This gives us an opportunity to look at something at a much larger scope and go, okay, we don't need to find one thing that makes this special. We just get to take this special and add it to our game. Percy Jackson stuff when it comes to Arcana, that would be awesome. That
Yeah.
would be slick. Hell yeah, Valkyrie Luna. High five from Indiana to you, wherever you are. Percy Jackson would be an awesome, all of those, all of that, that style, that kind of young myth would be great.
yep. And Fifth Element would be a good one too, along with maybe Battlestar Galactica. Although there might be a
Battlestar,
I think they already have one.
Battlestar had a role playing game. It was short lived. It's a little harder to do. Battlestar Galactica would make for a great individual cinematic splat, like a not so much a series, because it's I don't mean like it's a one trick pony, but it's very much the primary like impetus behind everything in that story is figuring out who's a Cylon and who isn't. It's a lot of almost like sleuthing around your friends, and it makes for an amazing. I've played in a homebrewed one at a convention before. It makes for a great table game because you can have plants. Basically, you can everybody gets to open. Everybody has the same character sheet, but then in this particular game, everybody also got an envelope, and that envelope it was all random. Because all of our sheets were the same as far as stat line wise, and you would basically pull out your little card, and it said whether you were a human or a Cylon. And over the course of that 3.5 hour game, if you were a Cylon, your goal was to try and tank the mission. And it was very much like the board game, except in a role playing game scene. It was very cool, but I don't think that it would make for a great extended campaign as you just backstab your friends.
Although, I don't know if you remember the show Caprica, which was a prequel spin-off.
Yeah, I
I
remember
don't.
Um,
that. That,
I
that was
feel
a
like
very
something like
short-lived
that would
show,
make
sadly.
make a pretty good setting. Because it
Okay.
was it was like pre the Cylons showing up, or like
Oh,
it
okay.
basically it's like kind of the story of the Cylons first being made in
Cool.
in the new canon where they made them instead of some kind of lizard aliens, I think.
The
Um,
masters, yeah. Yeah.
yeah,
Some kind of
but
creepy
it was
glittery aliens.
they have their 12 different planets that are different cultures, and I think that would be a pretty interesting sci-fi setting.
Hmm. Um, so one of the questions was, any plans for a post-apocalyptic setting or a cyberpunk setting that's not a license? I mean,
Wh-
they kind of
Well,
are.
the answer is we did these. Um, they're not huge books, but they're releases on Sidekick. Brian and I collaborated on Everyday Apocalypse or
That was fun.
Apocalypse Heroes. I don't remember which it was, but
Everyday Apocalypse was the name of
they're
it.
some discussion of how to use the system post currency,
Mhm.
things like that. uh you don't need a whole lot to do post apocalyptic with the system. And if you want like mutants and stuff, we got that in the vault. um so absolutely doable. And then a recent one I did was cyberspace heroes, which combined with the cybernetics in the vault makes for a pretty good full
Cyber.
cyberpunk setting.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Somebody did say that they think that being the IPs being short-lived is a good thing because it allows you guys to kind of like scrub the IP from it and give us something that we can all kind of.
Yeah, that was sort of always the idea behind picking the things, which is another good topic, is like why we pick the ones that we do. Um, and part of that is, do they have good material for the vault, or now the vault volume 2 when that eventually happens.
And
Um,
I think
so
there was a big learning curve with the first round of cinematic adventures. The ones that seemed to be the most popular were the ones that added the most to the Everyday Heroes system. uh the ones that were, I don't know, be like, not, it didn't fall flat, but like were a much more selective audience. Something like Rambo was, a lot of what Rambo was based off of the story of Rambo being told, and a lot of what it could do was already kind of cooked into Everyday Heroes. So it made it, for, if you were a Rambo fan, it was an awesome book. If you were just being like, all right, I want something new to bring to my Everyday Heroes campaign, it didn't have as much as, say, something like Pacific Rim or the Universal Soldier with a complete cybernetic system. They're I think when we look at stuff now, when we have those licensing conversations about why Goat is awesome and why we need to make a Goat game, is what brings you laugh, but I'm going to get it. I fought Renegade about my GoBots book. I will fight Evil Genius about a Goat game. You figure out what you can bring to the greater Everyday Heroes world with that book. Not every book has to be like cover to cover brand new stuff, but something. And in this case, in the case of Goat, if I get my way, um, it gives us a gamification, Everyday Heroes gamification of sports, of an aspect that we've never really gotten into. Hockey players and that kind of stuff. We can actually go deeper into that, deep dive on that, and then of course origins for anthropomorphic animals. But that's that those two things go together. They goat together. It's great. Saturday. Um, but like, when you look at something, a random, I'm trying to think of a random IP that maybe doesn't make any sense. Um, Give me one. Someone out there, give me one. Oh, hey,
Well, so one classic that I always mention is like Die Hard, is perfectly an Everyday Heroes thing. It would fit so well into our system, except it would fit too well into our system. You can already do it. Like, you
yeah.
don't need a special book that lets you play a Die Hard scenario.
Somebody said the
You just
Equalizer is another one.
So
Yeah. So
Tom says
you
the
just make
Equalizer.
your characters.
If someone handed me the Equalizer and said, make this into an Everyday Heroes product, I would lean toward it being more of a bonus feature than an actual full cinematic adventure, because the Equalizer is about one person, similar with John Wick, honestly, is about one person against lots. So it almost would be a way for us to introduce solo play. So as a mechanic, you would go, okay, this is how do we do one guy versus 50, 50 goons all at the same time, and make it not just crunch, 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 crunch. Or I don't need a DM. I just want to have my dude run through this map and create a set of responses, a bunch of if-then statements for these baddies that I'm going up against. But that's what we need to do when we start looking at a cinematic adventure. Is, at least I don't want to speak for Goob, but I know that there's some things are such powerful IPs that they sell themselves no matter what, even if they didn't have anything that you're bringing to the table. Like, if someone handed us, we'll say, the Star Trek license and said, here, you now have Star Trek. Yes, we're probably going to create a bunch of cool stuff that goes with it, but we wouldn't have to. That license would sell itself. It is what it is. Most IPs, especially the smaller ones that are going to take a little more getting used to, or a little more grabbing, we have to figure out how that's going to become part of the family, what it's going to do for the family, other than just sit in the corner and go, hey, I exist.
Someone mentioned Back to the Future. I mean, time travel is a fascinating thing in role-playing games. I think we had a discussion in the Evil Genius Discord a little while ago about it, and like, usually my recommendation is stay away from doing time travel in your game, except I love using it. So stay away unless you are really, really sure that you can do it. Like, for whatever reason, my brain works with time travel well. Like, I have a good ability to, if like the players go back in time and do something, to connect that action to something that already happened in the future, and put together something that kind of like makes sense, and that doesn't break all of time.
Mm.
Back to the Future has a great sort of cheat for that, which is if you go back and change something, you've made a new timeline, which definitely makes things a lot easier, because you don't have to figure out how everything that the players are going to do has already happened when you don't know what they're going to do.
I have in my copious levels of dumb notes, I have a Bill and Ted style time traveler class that keys off of just basically saying we already went back and did this and affecting the current timeline.
That would actually perfectly work as the smart hero.
Yep.
Because the plan isn't that you were so smart that you planned ahead. It's that you have a time machine and you will plan it ahead later.
We'll get around to doing it later with the time machine to do the thing now, and I need this now. Hey, I got a thing. Yeah. No, 100%. Druid Duo, I probably butchered your handle up pretty bad. Druid Duo, it's 2 words. It says Golden Compass, His Dark Materials. I think if I were to do it, it would be more about creating the demon, creating about that each person's demon, than the mechanics themselves. And obviously the setting is important, but the mechanic wise would be almost like a for Everyday Arcana, because it's definitely more magic based than some of the other worlds. It would be about almost like a subsystem of creating the perfect familiar that's attached to you.
Yeah, I feel like an origin for person who has a demon. Do they is there like a term for that, or is that just human from that dimension?
I think
Um,
it's just a human from that dimension, because
Yeah,
yeah,
there's a term for the people who have one separated from them. I don't remember what it
yeah.
is,
Um, but
but
yeah, so having an origin from to be like you're from that world,
yeah.
would be really cool. There could also be discussion of dimensional travel.
Well,
Yeah.
Tom, they
Um,
kind of
and there's some
already.
real weird stuff later that I'm not super familiar with, but
Yeah, I
there's like
don't.
angels. Um,
But
it gets
we
strange.
would get big
Um,
armored bears, and that's right up my alley.
yeah, yeah.
I love the idea of the giant armored bears.
Origin to be one of the polar
Okay.
bears would rule.
Yeah.
Would be I'm sold. I would do that.
Western setting, we've also got a Everyday West bonus feature that I wrote um, that cover some of the like tech, which is that's like the main thing that's different for it. Is like you don't have access to all the modern guns. Um, so there's stats for sort of your classic old west style revolver and a list of what weapons from the core book you can't use. Gunslinger class. It's a charming
Yeah.
hero. Um, and like backgrounds and professions and stuff. And I think that's all you need to just do everyday heroes, but it's a western. Um,
And when
you
it
could
comes to
absolutely
Western,
do a western IP, but
yeah, when it comes to a Western setting, you also have to decide what kind of Western. Is it a spaghetti Western? Is it a black hat, white hat Western? Or is it more gritty, down to earth, like Tombstone style? Like
Mhm.
how are you? Is it Lone Ranger or is it 310 to Yuma? Like you got to figure out
Yeah, I mean, I think
where you
you
sit
can
there.
sort of do a pretty good range of sort of those genres. The one thing that would be I think would be really cool for a cinematic adventure, something that is really adding some new stuff would be something like a Wild Wild West.
Cowboys
Get
versus aliens.
some weird steampunk stuff in there. Um, Weird West.
Yeah.
Um, would
Cowboys
be
versus
would be very fun.
aliens, Wild Wild West. Yeah. I,
Yeah, like a Weird West for everyday Arcana.
Would be
I don't know
sweet.
of any movies off the top of my head that are like real great examples of it's the Wild West and their supernatural stuff. Like it's definitely a genre, but I feel like it's more in games and stuff.
There's a lot of B horror movies that fall into that category, like Dust Till Dawn. One of the prequel Dust Till Dawn. But yeah, you're right. There's way more sci westerns than there are weird westerns as far as in straight media.
Yeah, but I mean, as some like a bonus feature or something like that would be cool. Because that's the other thing that we've been doing since the original set of cinematic adventures. Since then we've done one cinematic adventure with the Return of the Living Dead, but we've been doing a bunch of these monthly things that are these sort of just genres, concepts. They're not a specific IP
right.
that will also end up getting compiled probably into the next vault.
That's what I was about to ask. Would those monthlies be compiled into the next vault? Because
Yeah, that's the current plan is to do at least Return of the Living Dead, and um, we need to put out a few more before we quite have a Vault 2.
Yeah.
But if anything else ends up coming out in the near future, that would get compiled into it.
Well, and I know we've talked. There's been a few things that we've had in the meetings. We're talking about, what's coming up. What do we want to do? That it doesn't like fit necessarily like the idea of a full release, or like, man, that could be something really cool. A lot of that stuff kind of gets put on the back burner to hopefully show up in the vault later. Anything that's not I don't really like, not say worthy. That's not the right thing. It's hard to come up with a single product around it is perfect for a vault, is perfect for a vault edition later, because it's like, we have this cool idea, we really want to do this cool idea, but we don't know what to put it around it. That's what the vault's kind of for, is to put all these cool ideas together for people can use it at their leisure. Oh,
Yeah,
Tom asked
like
more questions.
the first vault had all the stuff without the IP, but it also had like playing kids and level 0 heroes and a career path, I think. Yeah, like 2 new
Mm,
career paths and
Going past level 10.
playing
Yeah.
past level 10.
yeah.
What are some things you haven't made yet that you would like to make in Everyday Heroes?
Um, I mean, superheroes
So
would
that's
be pretty cool.
that's the thing that I'm a giant comic book junkie, and I would absolutely love to be able to do everyday hero, everyday everyday supers, or not so everyday heroes, as the case may be.
Yeah. Um, I think there's a lot of interesting mechanics there. Like the game already supports like street level heroes very well. If you include like the weird vault stuff, you can even include like, I mean, The Crow is technically a superhero movie. Um,
Yeah.
but there, what that became in the vault is the chosen class, which is very much a superhero, maybe a Buffy type. Um, and you can have like some weird supernatural powers. You can be a super amazing martial artist. Um, so like the system supports that pretty well. Um, but having a lot more like guidance for like secret identities and stuff would be really cool. But then if you want to get like more powerful, you want to play Batman and Superman. Um,
Yeah,
then that gets a lot weirder in the rules, and I think there's some cool stuff that could be explored there.
definitely.
What about everyday villains? I mean, you can kind of do that now with Everyday Heroes. You just gotta.
Yeah, I mean, I
Well,
feel like if we did a product that was called Everyday Villains, which is a great name because we got Everyday Heroes,
absolutely,
it would
absolutely.
probably be a collection of like enemies. You know, like here's a bunch of cool villains and their minions and a bunch of lore about them and how to put them in your game and that kind of thing. If you want to play villains, I think you just can. Like
Yeah,
the basic rules work really well for, you're a group of criminals.
yeah. There might be some cool like additional feats or things you might be able to add that are like specific. To have a friend take a bullet for me, without their consent.
Yeah,
Like
some slightly
those
less
kinds of things.
heroic moves.
There's ways to add more to it, but Goob's right. You a lot of what you if you since we've taken there's no alignment system, there's no morality cooked in. You're considered to be these kind of heroic style characters, but that's the narrative telling you that. You could absolutely make some serious scumbags. I mean, the mastermind smart class is often confused. People are like, mastermind? It's like, yeah, mastermind. Like it's just a leader who has henchmen, kind of.
Well, there's the
Yeah,
manipulator
just
class too.
somebody
So
who's mastermind is basically just like the core smart hero.
Yeah.
They're just smart, but all their plans and stuff are very supervillain coded. I had it poisoned is such a like the guy across the table from James Bond kind of
Mhm.
move. Um, so there's definitely some good villain options.
Yeah. Yeah. Tom points out that some of the backgrounds would be great for villains like the juvenile delinquent. Yeah. Like
Yeah,
you
raised by
absolutely,
assassins.
yeah, raised by assassins. Doesn't mean you ever got
Mhm.
better. You
Yeah,
just
Everyday
stayed.
West has like a bad reputation feat.
mm,
I think it's just called on I'm pretty sure your suggestion called Black Hat. Um, and then there's an equivalent White Hat um, feat, but which are mutually exclusive, and one of them makes you like better at intimidating people and worse at persuading them, and the other one vice versa.
mm.
Yeah.
But yeah, a lot of classic hero tropes are um like you were raised in a way that you probably should have become a villain, but you rose above it and became a hero. But I mean, you could just not do that last part.
Yeah. Uh,
You grew up on the wrong side of the street and it made you a jerk instead of empathetic.
one of my favorite Batman lines of all time is it's literally you're just one bad day away from being me.
Yeah.
And that's exactly some of the best villains out there. 100% think that they're in the right. They think that they're doing the right thing. They think that they're, very few people go, I want to be evil. Like that's,
Yeah.
unless you're Skeletor. And even then, if you go into I'm about ready to go into some Master of the Universe lore. Kelmore didn't think he was evil. He became evil and then kind of waded into it once he decided, you burn my face off. This is how it's going to be. And I think that some of the best heroes or some of the best villains could have been heroes if their day turned out differently.
Mm.
Yeah. And a lot of the best heroes could have turned out villains if they had, chosen differently.
Yep.
So a
Well,
lot of the same backgrounds and character archetypes and stuff work for both really well.
that's awesome that you are basically brand spanking new to the game, um, and are enjoying it that much that you came here to us. Uh,
Oh,
and
Valkyrie.
Valkyrie looks like she
very
just
cool.
got it at EDH at CanCon on the 26th of last month. So,
Literally like a week and a half ago. Awesome. Welcome to our crazy, sometimes dysfunctional family.
uh,
But yeah, so like our choosing criteria, we want to make sure that there's some good content for Vault, but also ideally it should be something people are interested in. Either something that's popular now or a classic,
Yeah.
something like that. Because it could be the best IP for our system ever. It has everything we want to include. But if nobody cares about it, then we're we're not going to sell it. So
oh,
we can't really do that. Um, and that probably best to include those sorts of mechanics without IP.
Yeah. That's that whole marketability factor is that there are definitely, Goob and I both have stories that we would love to tell, but we just know that there's no real ability to make that happen, whether it's legal or otherwise. Just we have to kind of put that in the back burner until something comes up that we can go, haha, yeah, and have this bonus feature that's lightly shows something that we want to do, but we couldn't do it the other way.
Yeah, there's also what's available, obviously.
Also true.
If not every movie studio is offering all their licenses. I think when we were picking our first group of them, um, I think it was WB was being purchased by Disney or something, and so all their IPs were frozen. Um, so even if they would generally have them available, they just weren't for a few years.
Yeah.
Um, so not everything is even on the table to look at.
And even when it comes to some of these licenses, there's a drastic difference for some of them. For example, there are licenses that are based off of books that have become movies, but they're separate licenses. So you might very well be interested in this particular product and go, okay, I want to be able to use this thing, and the license holder goes, yeah, but that's in the comic, not in the movie. You can't use that. When I was working with Transformers, we had a bunch of stuff that was in the toys that was not in the cartoons, but it was in the comics, and I couldn't use this character because he was in one and not the other, and Hasbro was very specific about it. It all just depends on the product, and that's part of, when Dave brings these licenses forward, we have to also ask, is it the whole thing? Is it just the first? Goob, you told me the horror story about Rambo's hair on the cover of the cinematic adventure. Somebody told me that. It might have been Sig.
I don't think it was me. It was probably Sig.
Okay. Apparently, the original art for the cinematic adventure for Rambo was used the second movie's image for his hair, and the licensor said you had to change it because we only had the image rights for the first movie. There's aspects to this. When we were doing stuff with Pacific Rim and Kong, the number of back and forths on the tiniest of things, but that's because this is, you're messing with their babies. I mean, like, this is they have the ultimate control. And if they say that Kong's scars, there are 3 long ones and 1 short one, then that's what you do on every piece of art, because if you change that, they're going to go, hey, that's not right, that's not our Kong. Unless, of course, you come to them and say, well, yeah, but this is the prequel Kong, and he hadn't fought the thing that scratched him yet. And they're like, well, okay, what year does this take place? Because sometimes it does get down to that specific.
Yeah, of course, then some licensors don't really care about some of their properties. So like with Kong and Pacific Rim, they're like ongoing properties. They care a lot about them. Rambo is this whole classic thing, and there's the whole like the actor's image often belongs to the actor, not the property. And there's a lot of sort of complicated stuff there. But then it's like Universal Soldier, they were just like, do whatever, I don't care. It has like 3 different competing canons anyways already. And we only had the first movie for the license, but it's not this like beloved thing that they are about to do a big new release for. So that one basically was left to me to be like, all right, so it's 2024 now. After all this stuff in the first movie happened, and I've decided what happened since then, and like they just don't care. Or you get sort of honestly the best of both worlds was with The Crow, which was the creators were super into it and like had conversations with us, and we pitched some ideas to include in there, like spirits besides the crow spirit, and they were like, oh man, we love this, yeah, like we want to include this in our canon, and make it part of stories going forward, and stuff like that, which
See,
is
that would
which
be
is awesome,
cool
instead of
if
them
they
being
took
like,
that.
nope, you can't do that. They're just enthusiastic about it.
Um, so this is a question from, I back during the original cinematic stuff. Um, which of those cinematic adventures, aside from Kong having to be so specific, um, was the hardest to actually work with?
Like in terms of the like license holder.
Yeah, the license holder.
Um, I don't think any of them were particularly difficult besides Kong. I mean,
I was
Pacific Rim had very specific stuff we could use or not use, but I don't think it was
yeah,
ever very hard. Like I don't remember there being any difficulties until we were doing the legendary bundle.
yeah,
When there were various art things and stuff.
yeah. It comes down to, I wouldn't say hard. I would say they're very protective of their license. And so when we were doing the new legendary stuff, the Jaeger Codex and things where we had to start creating things outside of what you see in the show and you see in the cartoon and you see in the movies, there was a lot of back and forth if we created something that they did not care for. Like there's very specific naming conventions for some of the Jaegers that we would do a name for something and they would go, yeah, that it doesn't fit the naming convention. And there were times that we would come back to them and go, actually, you have one that uses this exact same style. So is that cool? And half the time Legendary would go, oh, we did. Yeah, that's cool. That's fine. Like they were a pleasure to work with, but there was a lot of back and forth. I would say hard, not because they're being difficult, hard because they're very protective of their IP because it's an ongoing thing.
Yeah, just
That
hard
that
because it's work to
Yeah.
go back and forth and figure it out. But yeah, I think of the original ones, I think only really Kong had that level of like art stuff because the Pacific Rim stuff was all from the first two movies. Um, because not even anything from the show, the black um or blackout era. I think the show is the black.
Yeah. The
But
Netflix show was black.
even though that was included in the license, we could do stuff out that far. Like there just was not room in the books, so it was all pretty safe stuff. And then I don't think any of the other licenses were uh were anything besides either they were like, yeah, do whatever, don't use beyond what the license is. And then The Crow, which was a delight to work with them. But like Escape from New York was just the first movie, which I think is fine with a lot of people. Um, Same with Highlander.
yeah,
The
those.
Crow, we had access to all the movies, but not the comics. The movies get progressively a lot worse. So, maybe didn't use a whole lot from that last one, but it's just like what can and can't we use?
So, as an opposite, which one was the easiest to work with, or had the, we'll say, uh, I mean, he kind of did say which one was kind of the.
Yeah, it depends on what you mean by easiest, because like The Crow was definitely like the most like the nicest to work with because they wanted to work with us, but they didn't have a lot of like nitpicks or specific little tiny details that we had to pay attention to. They were just enthusiastic about us doing something with the license.
Mm,
Easiest in terms of we didn't ever have to ask any questions. Nobody ever said no to anything. Um, and basically we could just do whatever we want, is definitely Universal Soldier. Because I mean that book is 90% fan fiction. Um, because there's not a lot in that movie. If you take they made like five more in two different canons. Um, so if you took all of that, there would maybe be some more setting stuff. But really, it's just like there's this technology, this process to create these universal soldiers, which is kind of reanimating the dead. It's ambiguously cybernetic. It doesn't even really explain, like, do they have robot parts or do they just have chemicals in them? Sometimes they make sort of a machine jooping sound when they move, but sometimes they don't. Um, and there's like it's like the secret military program that is I think they specify that it's like not approved by the higher ups. It's like this separate secret thing that only some people know about. And then the movie is there's a guy who that happened to, and then an eviler guy who that happened to, and they like leave and fight. Um, like there's not a whole lot of setting there, and it's really only this one type of character. but it felt like a really good jumping off point to include a whole set of cybernetic rules. So within that world, basically, like, that got exposed at the end of the movie. Like, one of the characters is a reporter who, like, exposed the whole thing. And so since then, the technology has been, like, leaked. The people who worked on it have gone on to work at other places. And so it's the modern day, but there's tons of, like, cybernetics out there that is, like, way more advanced than what we have in the real world. And all of that was just a thing I made up to justify having a whole set of cybernetics.
Yeah, I wasn't part of the initial. I wasn't brought on the staff yet because hadn't started doing stuff with Rebel Moon when they did that first round of cinematic adventures. So I didn't have any hand in any of those original array. But I think my favorite license that I've ever worked for, the easiest license I've ever worked for, was probably Conan back in the day, back in the late '90s. Or early 2000s, because the Conan properties people were very cool about, you send them a pitch and you'd have a meeting and they'd sit down and read the pitch like almost out to you at the table and go, yeah, yeah, awesome. So it was such a pulp, like you could be like the strangest, weirdest pitch and they would be jazzed about it, and then you would work out the details afterwards. Like it was the that was just, it was a fun interaction, even if your pitch ended up getting changed completely to the final story. Just that interaction was so much fun because they loved their property so much that just you being excited about seeing them excited about what you're excited about, you just kind of build off of it, and 45 minutes later you've got a product that you're going to start making soon. So that was probably my,
Yeah, that's
that or
definitely
Babylon
the
5.
ideal, is when they care a lot,
Yeah,
but also they're very open to what you want to do.
yeah.
So if
The
you're a
and then
license
the
holder, that's that's
yeah.
what we're looking for.
We want people to be excited about us using their stuff. And just for the nuts and bolts, probably working with Warner for Babylon 5 was the easiest when it came to, we send them a manuscript, they send back notes, we change the notes, they look it over, and we get a big thumbs up from Fiona, and then we move on. Like that was just, it was a mechanically simple process.
Cool.
Oh, Tom's got questions.
Yeah. One of these questions: without violating any NDAs, are you potentially working on any television show properties as opposed to movies?
Yes.
Yeah,
You put the word
there's
potentially in there, bro.
some concepts in the works.
Yeah.
Um, so it's on the table. Um, I've been bugging Dave about doing a video game property. And he's been like, I don't know those people. I'm just, but could you maybe shoot him an email? Maybe we could
Mhm.
see, maybe.
Yeah. Mhm.
So there's some potential there.
Cool. Uh, yeah. That like there's so much potential with Everyday Heroes to be able to do so many things out there. Like, and with the other IPs that are coming out, that or the other rule books coming out, IGH and every EA, just
Valkyrie's about to ask something cool. I love on Discord you can see when people are typing, because it's like, oh, something's coming. Although at the end of every like panel, or those last like 5 or 6 minutes, when you're like, is that someone signing off and saying goodbye, or is that someone about ready to drop a cool question in the thing? Oh no, and she stopped typing.
yep. And
Uh,
and we are in the
Yeah,
last like
if you
12 minutes, so
you say something controversial, and you get the pop up. Several people are typing.
yeah, it's like, oh, did I just open a can of worms? Speaking of video games, Worms, the role playing game. No, I'm kidding. Um,
okay.
Actually,
you know what? If I can make Goat happen, Worms can be next.
but yeah, there's a lot of great sci-fi settings in video games. Um, so and there's a lot of fantasy settings too. I don't know how many urban fantasy things there are that aren't already based on, like, Shadowrun or something. But
There
If
there was that one sci-fi show that was like elves, dwarves, and stuff were part of this like secret organization trying to protect the rest of the world from themselves. Some sort of like
Hmm.
invested like agency type thing, but it was like uh
That sounds cool.
yeah, and I can't
I
even
mean, that
remember
sounds
the
very,
name.
very
Can't
urban
even remember
arcana.
the name of it. It was like it was on sci-fi for a bit, and I think it only had like one season or like a very short run.
I should definitely watch it. I don't remember that existing.
There's Grimm.
Yeah, Grimm is definitely a good example.
Yeah, Grimm is one, but this one was like there was there was an elf, there was a dwarf, and several humans all working together, and I can't remember the name of the show.
Huh.
Yeah, I should know this because like that's so much what everyday arcana is trying to be.
And there was Bright, but I know that they're person non grata because of whoever wrote it slash directed it. Um, that
Yeah.
was
Yeah, Bright is like has a ton of really good ideas in it. I think the movie wasn't that good, but like I love the world building in it. And I want more stuff like it where it's just like there's magic stuff but it's normal.
right.
I
It's
Yeah.
know
such a
I would love because I think if I had a dream cinematic that I could do and it would tie EDA and IGH together. Like it would almost be like a partnership. Like in my head, close my eyes, I can see it. The cover actually shows them both. Like bam, bam. You know, like it's a product that uses both of those licenses in tandem, or both those rule sets in tandem. Would be Masters of the Universe.
yeah, well I mean there's
He-Man and She-Ra, because it's all there's aliens and tech and multidimensional travel and vehicles and stuff and obviously magic, and I think it would be perfect. I would love it.
yeah.
Also, I'm a giant fan of that world, so
Yeah,
it's
and also
an
there's a new
influence.
movie coming out which
Correct.
might be very different canonically than what's existed before, but
So
you know
so
that
far it
means
looks
it's a
pretty
movie.
close to home. So far it looks pretty close to home, so I'm excited.
Mm, that's good.
Oh, we have Valkyrie's asked some stuff. Country western, like in a modern such as Yellowstone. Yeah, absolutely. You could totally do a cool like like a ranch, like opposed ranches, against each other, almost like a organized crime except ranchers.
Hmm.
Yeah,
They
I mean
are
that,
working
that
on
is,
kind of. There was the
yeah, talking about Call of Duty style stuff.
yeah,
We do have military heroes sort of in the works.
right.
It's been backburnered, but the idea there is to have it be a little bit more of like a realistic kind of a game versus the core, which is very action movie.
Mm.
Valkyrie says something about Firefly for something like Arcana. Now, do you mean Firefly, the sci-fi show? Because
Uh,
if that's the case, you will already be able to basically create a Firefly game using the player's guide.
Yeah,
They're
for
that all of Joss
intergalactic heroes.
Whedon's, yeah, for Intergalactic Heroes, all of Joss Whedon's template characters that he does in every single one of his. Sorry, Asbar is soapbox there. Whoop. All of the templates from Firefly are represented if you squint at the classes.
Squint at the
Yeah,
classes.
and you can absolutely do a space western with the core rules of intergalactic heroes.
Mm.
Which, Valkyrie, you said you haven't seen much on IGH because so it's not actually out yet. We do have a beta document that is floating around. It is outdated at this point, but most of what's in there has not changed enough that you couldn't use that. I know there's a couple of people in the community that are using it to run their games. Um, if you go to the Evil Genius Discord, there is an Intergalactic Heroes what is it called? Channel that's its own. Hop on there and tag me, and I'll send you the link to the beta doc.
Apparently, it's on Sidekick.
Yeah, I believe it's on Sidekick. There's some sort
Never
of
mind, it's on Sidekick.
and it's
Excellent.
free, which is even better.
Yeah, so we'll be doing. I believe the plan is to do a crowdfunding thing for that one, like fairly soon.
Yeah,
So
knock on
So
wood.
you'll get to hear a lot more about what's up with that and what the books will be and what's in them and all that pretty soon. For Everyday Arcana, um, we don't know what the schedule is right now. Basically, the current schedule is get Intergalactic Heroes done,
Yeah.
and then we'll see what we're working on. There might be a few new things coming down the pipeline that might come out first. But I'm incredibly excited to do Everyday Arcana. I have been since we started Everyday Heroes. Um, it's been like the number one thing I wanna get in there.
there
Um,
was also that nice contest
and
that
also
everybody was able to.
I really want to do Intergalactic Arcana,
Yeah.
um, which is to say, once both are out, I would like to run a game that just uses both of them. Because a while ago I did a 5e game that I just called D&D in space, um, which was you just take all the D&D stuff, it's in space now. So
Oh, Starfinder.
uh,
Sweet.
yeah, a little bit. Starfinder, I think, has its own like alien races and stuff. I don't. Do they have normal spaceships? I think so.
Kinda. Yes.
Yeah. So a lot of people will be like, "Oh, so you're doing Spelljammer?" And I'm like, "No, it's not boats. Like
Yeah.
you're in spaceships. Think Star Wars. Only all the aliens are like an elf, a dwarf, a gnome, a tiefling. And instead of the Force, it's a wizard with a spell book, but their spell book is a tablet. Um,
Sweet.
Fun,
and
fun.
that was a lot of fun to do. I really like that mixing of like you've got spellcasters and all kinds of weird fantasy stuff, but you're also traveling around planets and got spaceships and laser guns and stuff.
D&D
Nice.
comes to the modern world kind of like the reverse of the cartoon. That could be cool. That would be neat. Fish out of water story.
Yeah, that's I guess that's a little bit Shadow Surrounding, which is the going to be the sort of default setting of Everyday Arcana. Um, some of it is like it's been here all along, secretly, but like there's other worlds and people come from those other worlds.
Mm.
Um, so it's sort of like suddenly everybody knows about all this magic stuff that is showing up and has been here and uh and the game master book will certainly have a lot about how to make your setting if you want to make your own setting. And one of the biggest things, one of the first things you got to decide is like, is magic secret?
Yeah.
Um, and so you got kind of three great things for that. You can have secret magic, or mostly secret. You can have it be like everybody knows about magic now, or it can be like bright and this is like magic's normal.
Yeah.
Like all the fantasy stuff has been here forever and everybody knows about it and it's just part of the setting.
Or magic is normal but illegal, like it was in
Yeah.
Bright.
Well, yeah. In Bright, it's magic specifically is kind of weird, and but like all the uh the war against a dark lord, and there's orcs and elves and everything. Like that's all just like it just happened
That's just
in
out in the
world
open.
history. Everybody knows
Yeah.
about it. It's not it's not like, oh my god, suddenly everybody's learned that magic is real. This changes everything.
Yeah.
It's just mundane.
Well, any last questions before I close us out?
What about one last question from you?
Yeah, you got anything?
Me?
Yeah.
Uh,
You're part of
I,
this process too. You're not just here babysitting our goofy asses.
well, I've already asked all my questions. They've been answered. Uh, yeah, somebody said Sorcerer's Apprentice type stuff. Um,
Yeah, like the kind of thing where like you had a D&D world and then time passed and now it's like the modern world. Um, but it's still all fantasy and magic and everything.
yeah.
You know what? I'm going to throw a question at Goob. Ha ha. To
Oh,
close this out. Goob, if you had one license movie specifically, because I know what your answer would be if just opened the door. What would you want to be able to do? I said Masters of the Universe earlier. What would you want to do?
yeah. Movie, Cabin in the Woods. We had a possibility of maybe doing it at one point. But the license like wasn't available, or I think they just didn't want us to like explore too much of the setting. Um, like if we had a big book of here's all of the stats for all of the weird monsters you see, it takes away some of the mystery or whatever. But like, I have some great ideas for that, and I love horror. And like the way that the characters are sort of forced into archetypes. I love the idea of like as you're playing, your character gets pushed more and more into their, smart hero or whatever, and starts building up penalties to do anything that isn't their thing. Um, and like maybe you get inspiration for acting towards your archetype, so it like gives the players an incentive to keep pushing that.
That's
Um,
cool.
but if you could fight against it and try to not go that far, but it's hard.
Mm, interesting. Well, thank you, both of you, for giving us insight and allowing us to just kind of ask you strange questions about what you'd want to do. Masters of the Universe would be cool. Um, I
I
haven't
mean,
seen
DC
Cabin in the
Comics would
Woods.
be the if I got to put my fingerprints on DC Comics before anything else. I mean I probably would cut off a toe for that. But in reality, like a license that's actually like I think gettable is Masters of the Universe.
Cool. Well, I thank you guys, and hope we can do something again like this next year and keep it going.
Absolutely.
Yeah, this has been very cool.
Okay.
And as I mentioned in the last panel, and I'll mention this one too, if you guys, if anybody has any questions or conversation they want to do, just reach out. We're all pretty open on the Discord and chit chat back and forth. If you're willing to wait a little while before us to get back to you.
Yeah.
Okay. Take care, everybody. Those of you getting ready for games, have fun and have a good evening. Bye.